Wacky Wednesday. You already know we right here. We're decided to hop on top of it with individuals. See what's the talk of the town is going down. The word in the curve. You heard me. Here in Southern California, it is a gloomy day, right? But we still have that humidity, so it's not like cold, gloomy. It's more of that like heat, gloomy type shit. Apparently, there's a storm hitting around, so we're gonna be getting that like Florida, Louisiana type heat weather. The muggy weather, which is the worst one. There's nothing worse than humidity. Whoopsie. Set this up real quick. Because the humidity heat is the worst type of heat that there could be. That's for sure. Now, I had seen that there has been new information leaked about the Charlie Kirk's assassin, right? Apparently, he was in a relationship with somebody who was transgender. So, I guess that's a good enough motive for the assassination, right? I mean, it could be other stuff, right? But, I mean, that in itself is kind of a smoking gun, right? No pun intended. But apparently he was in a relationship with a transgender individual. So that could have been enough motivation, right? I don't know. With the shooter's case, it's kind of complex because his family was MAGA, right? So his family was right wing, but he was left wing, right? That in itself could have also been a factor, right? Like he hated the way his family thought, maybe their political views, maybe, right? No, but it seems like he had a pretty good relationship with his parents, though. Like I said, it's pretty strange with him. Because it seemed like he wasn't at odds with his parents. It kind of seems like him and his parents had a pretty good, understanding of each other. But who knows, Like I said, this is just all shit that, is being, told to us, right? But for all we know, they probably had a rocky relationship. What up, Shadow? How you feeling? We are good, my boy. Chilling like a villain. How about yourself? How's your day going? ¿A toda madre o un desmadre? But it does seem like he was working alone, though. Despite what individuals out there saying that he belonged to some group and blah, 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 blah. There's a whole lot of conspiracy theories, I'll tell you that much. I heard one of a jet being involved in... like if nobody was going to hear a jet, huh? Must have been one of those silent jets. Hi, hello there. I heard that which is a fan base of Nick Fuentes that started online in force, like 4chan. In serio? Damn, bro, I'm telling you. Starts to get stranger and stranger. What's cracking like Alex Jones, mom? What are your thoughts on bad gut feeling vibes and people energy? For me, I view as something off when a person... No, yeah, gut feelings are always something to keep, a mind to, right? Because your gut feelings is obviously telling you something that you're just not homing in on, right? It's picking up something that you should be picking up on, right? But you're just not focused in on it. It's obviously a red flag that you feel, right? But at the time you're just not home in on it, right? But it's your brain reminding you, like, hey, yo, there's something suspicious going on right here. That's why we get those gut feelings. Because our brain and our eyes never stop working, right? Like even when people say that in your dreams, you see people you have never met before and stuff like that, but that is actually not true because our brain cannot create new images. So therefore, their faces you have seen before, you just didn't pay attention to it, right? But your eyes and your brain, kind of put it in the back burner, right? They store that information in the back burner. It's actually quite fascinating. What's cracking like in Dashpool? What's good, my loke? Chilling. Hi, hello there. I just got off work. I'm about to go to the gym. That's right, my boy, getting it in. That's good. Do you have any homies that King Von, especially the younger generation? I know you're That street dudes. The younger generation, maybe some of them do bump King Von, right? Not that I heard of, right? Normally, when we're all chilling, it's always whoever's pad we're chilling at, right? Or whoever's car it is, right? Or, you know, wherever we're at, right? We'll normally be bumping their music, right? And it's normally going to be an older individual, right? Than a younger individual. So, and like we tend to hear always the same, music over and over. The typical, Daz, Corrupt, Snoop, those individuals. Dre. There's a good hip hop podcast called it's by Big and podcast is actually worse. So unlike those other ones. Just checking it out. Big Loon? Alright, I'll scope it out. See what it do. Oh dang, thank you. Yeah, it's actually a trip, like when you learn it's because the brain is fascinating, but it's very complex at the same time, right? Like what the brain does. That's why it always piques my curiosity because it's fascinating of how complex it is, right? Do you bump King Von? I have heard of some of King Von's tracks. I've actually rapped over some of his samples of his beats, right? But as to say, do I bump his music? I don't really bump his music, but I have heard some of his tracks. He actually is pretty good. He's pretty good. Like I do not hear him because like he's whack or anything like that. It's just that how he's just one of these newer cats, right? He just doesn't fall into the rotation as much, right? Because I don't seek out his music as much as like other artists, right? So it gets lost in the rotation of the algorithm, right? Because the algorithm's always going to suggest stuff that you're normally always looking up, right? So since he's a name that I hardly look up, right? That's how it's hardly going to get recommended to me. By the way, Nick Fuentes and Charlie Clerk represent two rival factions of the right. That's why they hate each other. Yeah, I remember you guys telling me the last time. I know that there was some that like they were all voting for Trump, right? Like they were all for Trump and stuff like that. But once the Epstein files, hit the table, that's when a lot of the right wings, I guess, influencers split in division, right? There was some that still wanted the list to be released, and there was some that were like saying the same shit Trump was saying, like let's just let it go. If he says there's nothing there, then there's nothing there, right? So it created a rift between the two sides of the right wing, which I don't understand how people cannot be like bro, look at how he's just not wanting to release those. Like there's something there, and the fact that they don't catch on to that. No, they do catch on to it. They just don't want to admit it though. Because I refuse to believe that somebody cannot see that that's suspicious as fuck. I don't believe that people are that delusional. So I believe that they know that there's something there. They just don't want to admit to it. Which should already let you know the state of our politics that we're at, that where people are willing to overlook this kind of shit just to, continue their political side of winning the political battle, I guess. Like, damn, bro. There's stuff that should be above politics. This should be one of them, right? But new age we live in. What's cracking, like Mr. Pasa? It's definitely up in the casa for the raza. K1 is one of the few drill rappers I bump. Yeah, their beat selection is pretty dope. Did you scope out the music? Yeah, I actually had scoped it out a few days ago, right? It was a good track. I wouldn't say it was like, oh, damn, like, must hear, right? But it was a good track, though. I actually preferred the song, like, let's say, the one where Mr. Shadow featuring Corrupt or the Mr. Shadow featuring Daz Dillinger. I thought that those two tracks were they're legendary. Just the vibe of it overall, right? I would have preferred it if the track had an old school Ice Cube vibe to it, but it had more of his newer style beat selection vibe to it. Like, Gangsta Rap Made Me Do It. Like, it had that type of vibe of a beat to it. Which I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, right? I just prefer his older stuff than his newer stuff. Good Wednesday. What's good, Devro? Been a cool minute. Glad to see you on. Even though I don't really prefer drill and the beat, session we came on. Yeah, I'm the same way. So I agree with you there. Yeah, I agree 100 with you. That's why Nick Fuentes is considered anti. Yeah, I feel like he just does shit just for the attention. I really don't believe that he actually truly believes anything that comes out of his mouth. I feel like he just does it just to. He says like the most outrageous shit just to get the like I guess the shock value to stuff. You know what I mean? Like clearly he's just somebody who wants attention. And he's very immature. I actually don't know how anybody could take him seriously. You know, Charlie Kirk, at least when he spoke, at least, you can tell that he meant what he was out there, debating, and he actually put some thought into his shit, you know what I mean? But Nick Fuentes, you could tell with him, it's just like he just has the most outlandish things out there, right? Because his argument points aren't even legit either, right? Like they're so immature, We won, you lost, men win again. You know what I mean? Like there's actually like no substance to his views, right? Like they're just immature, I guess, he just lashes out on emotions. Like his explanation for why, women are beneath men is so ridiculous. It's not even funny. I agree. It was dope. It was like that's dope. Mostly. I think overall it's because of the two individuals and who they are, right? I think that also boosted up maybe the track in itself, right? But yeah, it was good. I mean, they weren't gonna release a track that was whack though. I knew that much at least, right? I just didn't know like how dope it was gonna be though. Out of a 10, I'd probably give it like a 7. Would you ever do a track with Kilo AK Downs or away from Pasa? Yeah, I wouldn't say why not. It would also depends of like how they're gonna come on the track too, though. We gotta be on the same page as well, though, because I know there's some rappers that you bring on a board and they kind of want to tend to do their own thing, right? And it's just like well, it's not really gonna work out like that. Mexico joins BRIC nations. Venezuela. Did they join? Oh man, did they join BRIC though? That's interesting. That's interesting. Very interesting. That does create kind of like a slight dilemma for the United States when it comes to doing business with Mexico now. But I don't think it could hinder it that much, right? Considering that the United States does a lot of business with Brazil and like India, for example, right? And they're members of BRIC. So I don't think it will maybe affect it that much. So, and we also do a lot of business with China in itself too. So it really, I don't see it maybe being that, Yeah, but that does make it interesting. Like that is very interesting though. Why they would question BRIC? Who would question BRICS though? Like the relationship between like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. NATO's still way ahead of BRIC though. When it comes to nations that are united though. Because NATO's relationship is a lot different than BRIC's relationship. BRIC's relationship is just financially. It's a financial move between those countries. Like they do business with each other, but it's not their relationship is not the same as like NATO. Like let's say if one country was to be under attack by a different country, right? All those countries that are united with BRIC won't go and defend that country. Like their relationship is strictly business, while NATO's relationship is beyond business. It's like if anybody attacks those other countries have to get involved. So the NATO's relationship is a lot more, intertwined and shit like that. They're more in bed with each other than BRICS. BRICS is just a financial move, right? Like, okay, we're just doing business with each other. Because essentially, even the countries that are doing business with each other that belong to BRIC don't even like each other, you know, or not too fond with each other. Example, India's relationship with China is not the greatest. Russia's relationship with South Africa is not the greatest either. So they do have in itself, quite a, power struggle right there. I am actually surprised that North Korea is not a part of BRIC. I would have figured that they would have been, but I don't know why. Well, I know that a lot of them, even though they talk to Kim Jong Un, they don't really like Kim Jong Un. For example, Russia's not too fond of North Korea, right? But they still interact with each other. It's a trip, though. Because I know with NATO, they like with BRIC, it's only like about like 6 countries that actually do business with each other, right? While NATO is like about like 36 countries that are united, right? So that's a whole lot of countries to try to go to war with, and you know they have some of the biggest and most powerfulest countries within NATO, right? Like the United States, Germany, France, England, Poland, which became a pretty big power in Europe, right? So Poland's because its military has gained up the ranks as of lately. I don't know what they're stacking up for. I don't know what they're preparing for, but they're preparing for something, right? Because they actually have bought a lot of military equipment off the United States, off of France, off of Britain. So who knows what the fuck they're preparing for? Something though. If I was Russia, I would kind of like keeping my eye on them. Or maybe they're worried because of Russia making all the moves that they're making, like let's say in Ukraine, that they fear that they might be next, right? So maybe that's why they preparing, right? They don't want the same shit that happened in World War II to happen again. They want to be prepared this time. They don't want to get blindsided. But yeah, they actually been spending a lot on their military as of lately. Their military spending has gone up, over the years, and by a lot though. Enough for people to be like, hey, why are these guys spending more on their military as of lately? That's how I would see it, right? Comparing, like, let's say you guys would only spend 1 million, let's say, before, right? And then all of a sudden now you guys are spending like 35 million. It's something to, like, hey, why want to keep an eye on these fuckers over here? Because that jump doesn't just happen just because, like, like just out of like no reason, spending a lot for a reason. Have you ever done features before? I don't really. Well, I have rapped with individuals before, right? A lot of individuals, but not like, let's say, like big names like that, right? People said the hit of Charlie came from the inside, right? Like, nah, I think people are just look. That individual talks a lot of shit, but he's not. He's not so slick like that, though. That individual's too reckless to cook up some, you know, inner hit type shit. You know what I mean? He's sloppy because he's immature. That's why. I think he's smarter than everybody, and that makes him very sloppy. So I don't believe that hit came anywhere near him. Some left wing organizations also put should right wing guy. I would believe that more than the Fuentes thing, right? Because the left, even though they claim to be like the good guys and the ones that are fighting for the what's good of the people, they tend to be full of themselves a lot, right? Like their egos just be running wild. BRICS and economic alliance. NATO is a military ally. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Do you know what I changes? No, actually, I don't. What is the best? When on a budget, probably those microwave burritos. They hit the spot. And rice and chicken in itself. Like if you get some rice and you just make some rice with some chicken, that will last you too. That will last you for a good while. Chicken's cheap, so's rice. You know, it's better than eating a lot of fast food because when you eat out like a lot, like let's say when you just go get a combo, even if it's just you, right? It's still gonna be very expensive. Like for the $10 that you spend, those $10 you go to the market and you can get yourself a meal that will at least last you like 2 to 3 days compared to it just lasting you one fucking day. You know, put it in the fridge. You know what I mean? And you can also mix it up like with chicken. You can. It's not like oh you have to keep eating the same shit over. Right? Like there's different stuff you can add to the chicken to make it taste different, right? So you got to mix it up because you can make more recipes out of chicken than you can with meat. You know, because chicken tends to taste better like with all kinds of different ingredients. While with meat, there's certain ingredients you really can't add to meat, right? Because it'll just fuck it up. Those 1 minute rice, man. Oh, I don't know which ones are those. Yeah, but like I would recommend not eating out as much though, because out there, they're just looking to fuck you over. Especially nowadays with inflation, yeah, they're just definitely screwing you over. You're rarely actually getting a good deal, even if the sign says that you're getting a good deal. Yeah. Do you like frozen food, like frozen pizzas and chicken sandwich? I haven't tried the chicken sandwich, but yeah, I fuck with the frozen pizza, frozen burritos, frozen food in itself. Yeah. There's sometimes you don't have all the time in the world. I know that on the internet, people make it seem like, ew, I wouldn't fuck with that kind of stuff. Acting like if they're fucking eating, a fucking four-class meal, four-star meal all the time. Man, like they're so full of shit. They microwave a fucking hot pocket from here and there. Everyone does. You don't have all the time in the world, all the time to be fucking cooking a five-star meal, right? There's times you're gonna have to eat a can of ravioli or a microwave meal. It's just the way it is. So yeah, I definitely fuck with frozen food. I wouldn't necessarily eat it all the time, right? But yeah, I mean, when there's no time to, cook up some shit, fuck yeah. Throw a hot pocket real quick, microwave burrito, cup of noodle, some shit like that. I don't like eating out. It's not healthy for you. Well, yeah, that is true also. Oh yeah, no, fancy restaurants definitely they're gonna screw you. Because they're obviously gonna charge you for the experience, right? The fact that you're dining at this, luxury, place, you're gonna get charged for that, right? They're charging you the experience as well, which is outrageous in itself. But hey, it's the times we live in now. They realize that people are willing to spend, money on that, especially nowadays, right? The fact that they're willing to, spend so much money for the experience aspect of things. It's a trip. Because if you really sit down and think about, like, well, what exactly are we paying for that's making this meal so expensive, though? Like yesterday, I went to the mall. Restaurants at the food court were so expensive. And oh yeah, at the food court at the malls, they're gonna charge you extra more than, let's say, if you like the Panda Express at the mall would be more expensive than you actually visiting one of their actual locations, right? Same if it had like a McDonald's or a Subway, it's gonna be more expensive you were to actually seek out the restaurant in itself. Because I guess they're charging you for the experience of being at the mall. I really don't know why they charge more. Chicken mole, chicken, where they barbecue, fry, orange, yeah, that's what I mean. You're able to come up with more shit, some chicken flautas, you know. You get the bare minimum for quality food. Yeah, especially in a lot of places. The only places that don't actually charge you, like let's say when you go to a buffet, buffets are actually cheap, right? And I know people complain about the quality of food, but it's like, what's a buffet? What do you expect? They're not gonna be able to be fucking a chef back there cooking these, gourmet meals all day, right? So you're gonna get this microwave shit. And it's really smart because in all true reality, how much can you possibly eat at a buffet, right? Even if you take your A game or you're starving, you're not really going to be able to eat that much, right? Like where they're actually going to take a loss in it. It's all in people's heads, right? Like, damn, how can these people make money? Well, people don't really eat that much at a buffet. Especially when you're just sampling different stuff, you tend to get full a lot faster. Especially if they're serving you shit that's going to get you full faster. Like anything that contains like a lot of whole grain, a lot of bread and shit like that. Dough, like pizza, where it gets you full faster, right? But it doesn't last that long. But by then you'll be out of the restaurant. That's the vendors and change more for less. Yeah, it's always to rip you. Patos locos forever, eh? Dice el Popeye. Do you think the economy is gonna get worse? Do I think the economy is gonna get worse? Yes, I do believe so. That in itself isn't Trump's fault. Like, it's not because of Trump that the economy is gonna get worse, right? But he didn't help the situation though, right? The economy was already, taking a hit before Trump hit office, right? But Trump is just making it worse though, right? All he really had to do is just, try to stabilize it, right? But he just rather not. But it's not like he's not the sole person to blame for it though. There's a documentary on the business of the buffet. Oh, is there? Oh, well, there you go. Popeye should be the sponsor of. Oh, no, not him. It should be Miklo. Should be the sponsor of KFC. Finger licking good. And they should just replay the scene of him licking Al's finger. And bam, bro, they have it set. Like I said, imagine how many takes it took to get that one scene right. Like, no, we're going to have to do it again. It didn't quite look right. Again, and again. By the end, that fool's finger was all shriveled up. Like if he had been in the water for like fucking 5 hours. Fucking Miklo. I don't give a fuck how much they're getting paid. That's just sucking on another man's finger like that. It's not the business. Don't look at me, dice el Popeye. Oh, don't look at me, puppet. 3 plates at a buffet. Yeah, at the most. Have you ever met someone who supports Nick Fuentes? Actually, no, I haven't. I haven't met somebody that actually supports Fuentes. I really can't see myself, having a conversation with somebody like that, right? Because they tend to, be, their views and the way they behave and carry themselves, they tend to be very, disrespectful, right? So I can't really see myself having a conversation with somebody like that, with they staying good. Like if I feel like they're trying to insult me, then it's definitely gonna go bad. The buffet actually counts the plates. Oh, do they? Damn. Savage how they're just right there, like, hey, that's your 3rd plate, right? It's on Amazon Prime. All right. Have you ever watched the movie Shot Caller? Yeah, I watched the movie Shot Caller. I watched all those prison-based, street movies before. Shot Caller's pretty good. It's one of the few that has actually, semi came close to what it really is. Same with like Boulevard Nights, right? And if we're talking about like just the experience of what these individuals go through on a day to day, I feel like the movie Friday breaks it down more better than any of the other street movies. And that is not even a street movie like that, right? But it gives you more of an idea of like how these individuals go, how their days go on a day to day, like just the experience of just being out there and just posted, and you know what exactly transpires. They're probably the ones that get it the most closely to resemble that. Because the other movies just add all this shit that is just like, what the fuck? Like, and that's crazy because it's supposed to be more of a serious movie, right? But they add all this fucking shit that's like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Yeah, that's not. Blood In, Blood Out by far was the worst one. Like, yeah, individuals are not carrying themselves like that, and this shit's not going down like that, like that. Like that in itself should have been the comedy of things. And that, I think that's why individuals like watching that movie, because they see it more as a comedy, even though it wasn't supposed to be a comedy, right? But like if homies are looking to get a good laugh, they'll put on that movie, even though that wasn't the movie's intention. So that lets you know how you know how that movie landed when it wasn't supposed to. What did you made about the G next series? I believe it was some to defend Hitler. Did he? Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. On those videos, a lot of people tend to comment, right? So I really don't get the chance to scope out everything, right? Because sometimes there's just too many to scope out. I try to scope out as many as possible, right? But yeah, it's a trip. And the movie Mi Vida Loca was yes. The acting was horrible too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my lunch break is over. We got to get back to it. It was good chopping it up with you guys, and we out.